Thank you, Sola. The next speaker doesn't need have introduction, since he is one of the most prominent diplomats and persons that work in favor of Macedonia in order to present it in the best possible light. A person that is a personal friend of our organization, the OMD. We know all the functions he had as president of the 62nd General Assembly of the United Nations and former Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Macedonia, as well as a UN ambassador in Germany and other countries. SrgjanKerim, PhD, is the first winner of an OMD Macedonian Heritage Public Service Award at the first conference in 2009 in Washington. And it was our honor that he attended that conference, the third and now the fourth Congress or the conference. We know that he has a tight agenda. He travels a lot to represent Macedonia throughout the world, and he works also as an advisor, counselor in the United Nations. So I would like to invite Dr. SrgjanKerim, PhD, to take the floor.
Dobro utro.
Good morning to all. Honorable Mr. Kolovsky, Mr. Nikolov, Mr. Mitrevsky, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure of mine and an honor, not only as the first winner of the award allocated by the UMD, but as a person that first of all believes in Macedonia, to be here today with you. And the first association that I have sharing this time with you, and the organizers allocated 10 minutes for my speech, and I will honor that. So why are we here? That's the first question. And what is actually the thing that unites us and bonds us? That's, above all, is our belief in our country, in Macedonia, our love towards our country, and the fact that we have a need to publicly express our patriotism. When I talk about patriotism, I'm not talking about nationalism. Contrary to that, patriotic feeling are the right of the citizens, equal to other rights to promote, affirm, defend the national interests. And that is an integral part of our lifestyle and the functioning of every healthy society. Therefore, I would like to welcome and greet the idea of UMD to organize its fourth annual assembly or congress on Macedonian soil, because the diaspora is an integral part of the Macedonian national organism and tissue. Secondly, I would like to also express and congratulate the organizers for the idea to discuss on multiple topics stipulated in the agenda, and that they also managed to invite prominent corpus of scientists and historians and other professionals. It's not only a historical issues here. From the audience, I can see that there are prominent number of historians, and I don't have any intention to meddle in their work and to allow myself to be self-declared historian. I will leave that to the professionals. History is important for all of us since we learn from our history. But if you ask me, the most important thing is the outcome, the result. 1878 was the year in which the Berlin Congress was held, and the delegates of the Berlin Congress on the 1st of July 1997, if they could be able to see Berlin then, miracle will struck, because that day Macedonia, the country that they wiped out, opened its first diplomatic representation there. So the result is what counts. The outcome is what's important. And that is why I think that Winston Churchill was right when he said, in the clash between the past and the present, the future is always the one to suffer. And we cannot allow ourselves to have that. And that is why I am a supporter of the motto suggesting that we should look forward. We should learn from the past, but we shouldn't be frustrated because of that. Every nation has frustrations if they only turn towards the past and what history brought them. After Bucharest, we shouldn't forget the two most terrible wars happened on the European soil initiated by Europe. The First and the Second World War, with millions of victims, with trauma and atrocities and consequences, not only in Europe, but in the world. But in that period, the Macedonian state has been constituted and established. The statutory status is not recognized only with the entry of the Macedonian in the United Nations, but back in 1945, our parents, their generation, fought along the Russians and the Americans and other allies, and they won the Second World War. And as a result of that, of the war being won, we have fought for the right to have our own country founded. So the territory of the Republic of Macedonia are not won on a conference table, but in a war. They were won over, and they cannot be ignored, and they cannot be wiped out. And because of that, I cannot see a reason for anyone to intimidate us, or for us to be frustrated that someone can take away our name or our identity. In that respect, quoting Sir Winston Churchill, I would like to also add on some other aspects. First of all, we are a part of Europe. And it's not by accident that the EU flag is here among other flags. In the idea of giving birth to the European Union, Macedonia is an integral part. Macedonian history is a history of civilization, of the cultural benefits of Europe. And the values that today are being shared among the European nations, we constitute a part of those values, and that should not be mixed with the Copenhagen criteria and other benchmarks that are required for the entry into the European Union. That's another issue altogether. In this complex Balkan puzzle, we have our state, our own state, in a state that is accepted and recognized across the world. We don't have the need to prove anyone anything, but we feel the need and the right to build a solid, healthy future, or with the language of the United Nations, language building. These are our tasks. There should our focus lie, and that is why I think that we should turn towards the future. We are far from being perfect. We need to construct more in order to build on what will be necessary in order to become an equal member of the European Union. The existence of the European Union, according to myself, is not only a political opportunity and someone's desire to be a member of it, but it's about someone's desire to have peace or war. That's the only European project that provides the peace and the stability. Don't forget about that. There are two projects that preceded that, and that was communism and fascism, and they both lived up to having a fiasco. This is the sole project that has a future with all the difficulties accompanying it, but the difficulties are a historic tendency. We need to have centuries. The US is 237 years old. Let's see how the European Union will look like as a European Union, as an alliance after 200 or 300 years, and then to talk about historic roots or what is to become of the future. The euro is the strongest currency in the world. The US and the EU negotiate about free trade zones. Where are we? There. We're there. There is no alternative to this. Macedonia will enter NATO and the European Union. I claim this boldly. And we will talk in 5 or 10 years, and we'll see whether those have been only illusions that we nurtured or a reality that we will face. But of course there are issues which need to be resolved and can be resolved. In the diplomacy, there aren't words such as never, no, we cannot. Diplomacy is there to mediate the solution for the most complex issues. In our neighborhood, it was unthinkable for the Serbs and the Albanians to sit on a table and to look at one another, nonetheless negotiate. But this is something that is happening between Serbia and Kosovo. But it's always a question of what approach is to be undertaken. If you want, with the zero angle game to approach an issue, we cannot find a solution. No one wants for one party to lose and the other to win. We have to have another approach, and that is a win-win approach. And that's realistic and feasible. And that is how the most complex of problems are being resolved in the world. I know that with Greece we can and we will be able to find a common language and to resolve the dispute, because that starts to be a frustrating issue for us, which is understandable since a lot of time has passed and we are not progressing when it comes to that issue. But it doesn't mean that we should reduce ourselves only to considering that issue. We have to build our country, our society in accordance of the demands of our citizens. We have to build national unity. Mr. Nikolov talked about the fact that we need to unite ourselves as Macedonians. That's a notorious need and truth, but it's also notorious need and truth that we should unite all Macedonians in Macedonia. Let's not forget that a third of the Macedonian population are not ethnic Macedonians or are not Orthodox. And we belong to the same country, and we need to jointly build that society, not oppose one another. We divided ourselves amongst ourselves on various grounds, and that blocks us. That's an obstacle. Those are more severe, more powerful than any other external blockage, because they can be overcome. But the internal ones cannot be overcome unless we implore and invest ourselves in overcoming the divisions within our borders. We cannot have us and them. We cannot divide ourselves on the grounds of government and opposition. There is everywhere government and opposition. The government is the one that proposes and adopts solution, and the opposition is the one that should offer better solution. And if the population is convinced that they are truly better, they will make a switch and come into power. Look at the democracies in Europe, our neighbors, not only in the region but the other. Austria is also a neighboring country because you need only an hour to reach Austria. There the struggle, the democracy is perfected to that level that specific solutions are being discussed in various areas, in health care, education, science, and so on. We haven't reached that. We cannot have a consensus. We do not carry debate, struggle, and oppose. Even the media are taken in that hurdle of not having a constructive debate, but only to blame someone, to attack someone. Here we have Mrs. Jana Popovska. She's been dealing for years with a very important issue of protection of environment, gender equality, prohibition of the majority or minority language. With the majority-minority attitude, the great Russia was broken down. It was not a conspiracy theory of the US intelligence service that actually knocked down the world forces. That wasn't the reason. The reason was that the people don't want to be a minority in their own country. Everyone wants to be an equal citizen. John Kennedy is ethnical Irish. Robert De Niro is an ethnic Italian, but they are Americans, prominent actors that entered the history of the United States when it comes to the film industry. That's what we need. We cannot be frustrated if Ali Ahmeti goes and talks about the Macedonian name issue. Who is Ali Ahmeti? These are our borders accepted by the European Union, by the United Nations. In the last decade of the 20th century in the former Yugoslav territories, and not a single border was changed. Not a single border was shifted. The borders remained the same. That's not an issue. The issue is what are we going to do within our own historically fought borders. What is the society that we will have, what is the Macedonia that we will have and leave to our children and grandchildren in the future. And it's a fact that we are on a level of 25% of the GDP per capita in comparison to the European Union. That's very little, far from enough. And tomorrow we will approximate and we will become an EU member state. It's a fact that in education we have deficit. We don't have competent enough people. Competency and expertise cannot be measured on a national level. We need experts that are specific and that experts in particular domains. We talk about huge unemployment rate, but that's due to the fact that we don't have the necessary experts desired by today's economic developments. When we talk about the economy, that the government will only adopt legislation. The objective judgment would be that we will recognize the efforts of the government. So the legislation that have been adopted as per the basic economic parameters have been well assessed by the IMF, by the external factors and other institutions, and they provide good baseline for our economy, for the further development from it sufficient and enough. Where is the entrepreneurship? Where is the creation of these are our borders accepted by nations? A lot of have been fought in the last decade of the 20th century in the former Yugoslav territories, and not a single border was changed. Not a single border was shifted. The borders remained the same. That's not an issue. The issue is what are we gonna do within our own historically fought borders. What is the society that we will have? What is the Macedonia that we will have and leave to our children and grandchildren in the future? And the fact that we are on a level of 25% of the GDP per capita in comparison to the European Union. That's very little, far from enough. And tomorrow we will approximate and we will become an EU member state. It's a fact that in education we have we don't have competent enough people. Competency and expertise cannot be measured on a national level. We need experts that are specific and that are experts in particular domains. We talk about huge unemployment rate, but that's due to the fact that we don't have the necessary experts desired by today's economic developments. When we talk about the economy, it's far from enough that the government will only adopt legislation. The objective judgment would be that we will recognize the efforts of the government. So the legislation that have been adopted as per the basic economic parameters have been well assessed by the IMF, by the external factors and other institutions, and they provide good baseline for our economy, for the further development, but it's far from it sufficient and enough. Where is the entrepreneurship? Where is the creation of competitiveness arena and quality? We lack all that. We cannot have the government to replace that through norms and standards and of We cannot think that we change things, that we change the reality. We're far from that. The science, education, and healthcare, and the basic human needs will have to be met by integrating the entire society. And that is why I repeat, debate is key. It is a good example to open debates on all issues across our country to have all inclusive. And to conclude, I believe that these 3 days will be fully utilized to debate on various topics, but also to share and to spread the positive energy, the positive climate in which the diaspora will have its role, and that is that unity, being together, cannot be built through phrases and political propaganda, but through serious social debates through which the citizens will feel that they are in focus, that they have their important role, that they have their needs considered. So in the end, the citizens can feel the result. And that is how we will meet the objective of being united, to be efficient, and to serve our country. Thank you.
Благодарам, доктор Kerim.